when you hear the name House on Haunted Hill, you immediately conjure up a bit of an image of what that might be. You can tell, okay, it's gonna be old, and it might be kind of dated. And while some of that is true, I think this transcends all of that. The premise is simple. There's a weirdly futuristic looking house on a hill, and it may or may not be haunted. So we have five strangers that are somehow all connected to either the house or uh, the owner of the house, which we know to be is Vincent Price. And each guest will be awarded 10,000, and that's about 100,000 in today's money. And each guest is awarded $10,000 or 100,000 in today's money if they can stay. If they could stay in the house overnight. But where this film really shines through is the dialogue written for Vincent Price and his like third or fourth wife. And this was all surprisingly kind of like weirdly dark and a little interesting. This comes from the director William Castle, who doing more he doing more research. He seems to just made like a lot of like what we consider to be movies for their time. I think the best project he's ever been attached to is maybe producing Rosemary's Baby. But the dialogue between Vincent Price and his the wife character is just like, ooh, like someone's gonna like be killed at the end. It's just like constant attacking and this little sprinkle of like dark humor here and there. And I guess since this is a horror movie, all the horror just feels very kind of of its time, really. The scariest thing we see is a pull of acid, and in the last like 3 minutes, a skeleton, which looks so bad you can see the strings. There's these two characters that show up that are the quote unquote housekeepers. They are there for one jump scare, and we never see them ever again. They're mentioned. They're like, hey, these are the housekeepers, but then they never show up. Yeah, and anything like supernatural or paranormal that goes on, it's really only seen through the eyes of one character. So, maybe there might be like good kind of like, oh well, here is like here's the reasons why. Hey, it actually might be supernatural, and here's the reasons why. Everything might just be in their heads. And going back to that skeleton scene, what would happen in like, I guess live showings, if you saw this in theaters back in 1959, is there would be a actual like plastic, like I guess glow in the dark because it had to be dark, skeleton that would fly on strings. And this technique was called immersion. And we don't really see too many kind of gimmicky things in movies now. Maybe 3D, but that craze is kind of like died down. That's so like early 2010s, late 2000s. 3D actually came out in the 50s too. House of Wax, also starring Vincent Price, was shown in 3D. And 3D also came back a little bit in the 80s with like Friday the 13th Part 3D, Jaws 3D. So I guess 3D is one of those like every 30 years it's just gotta come back. In terms of like other gimmicks, I think there was like some 4D movies, and I'm not talking like when you go to like an amusement park and you go see something and it's just like a little water. I think the fourth Spy Kids movie had like 4D. I could be misremembering. I don't feel like looking it up. Those weird like rumble pack seats where it shakes. That's a gimmick. Yeah, I don't think immersion is gonna catch on.